So we'll probably do 3 together. And if you have a kit of 5, you can just explore on your own and make the other couple and refer back to the recording or kind of go at your own pace. We won't do all 5 together just for time's sake. So the first thing you want to do is grab your rings. So the gold rings should be tied to some form of string, and you just want to untie that and get your rings aside. Again, hopefully you have a tabletop so you can put them somewhere. They're small, so they can kind of disappear pretty quickly. We're not going to use this twine or our ribbon until the end, so you could put that aside and you don't need that right now. What we're going to start on our thicker cord. So you have, if you have a set of 3, you should have 2 thicker and 1 thinner cord. You know, vice versa if you have a set of 5, but one of the thicker bundles here. So again, you just want to untie that, and you should have 6 of this thicker piece. So this, I believe it's a 6mm macrame cord. Sizing tends to vary between different brands, but this is 6 and this smaller one is 2, plus or minus, depending on the brand. And then these are about 24 to 26 inch pieces, again, plus or minus, because of cutting so many. So sometimes they get, I was always on the side of a little bit extra material. So before we start, I'll just show you a couple, you can see these couple of samples. So we're gonna do our thicker cord first. So that's gonna be this, similar to this one here. We're gonna use 6 pieces. So we do kind of end up with roughly kind of triangular shape, but we end up with 3 points because we have 6 cords. With macrame, one of the tricks, this is just kind of a fun fact going forward, is that you tend to work in multiples. It's quite a math conundrum, but multiples of 4 when your cord is doubled over. So we have six strands here. When we fold that in half, we get 12, which is a multiple of 4. So it's kind of, you know, if you're starting a project, that's like a lot of information. It's not relevant, but just a little backstory. So I'm going to keep this one up here so we can refer to that, and then we'll start getting our cord on our rings. So what we want to do first, it's called a lark's head knot. If you have done any macrame before, or even some of our wall hanging projects, or it's a fairly common knot that you might not know the name of. So what we're going to do is divide our cord in half. I want to keep it pretty symmetrical. It doesn't have to be perfect if one is slightly longer than the other, but you know, you don't want it to be like this. You want it to be as close to even as possible. You're going to take your ring here, and we're going to put this like doubled over end through our ring like this. And then we're going to put those 2 ends through that loop. So we're going to do this 6 times, so you can watch a couple and then try yours if you need to. And then with this thick cord, it gets a little trickier once we get to that like 5th and 6th one, but you want to pull it tight, and we will be able to fit all 6, even if we have to squeeze them in. So the trick each time, you divide these in half, and I'm always going to put my cord on top of my ring and go through. That way I'm going to get the same knot. Sometimes if we're doing a bunch of these and very quickly, you can end up with the, like, if you're not doing that same knot on the top, you can end up with the reverse. So if you do end up, you know, like one of these doesn't match the other, you can take it off and just go back to putting your cord on top and through your ring, and you should get there. So I'm going to pull it good and tight, and you can again double check that your pieces are about the same length, that they haven't moved on you. And we're going to pull those tight like can start to pull them together a little bit so that we have room for the other ones. Okay, some of our friends joining here. Let's see. Welcome, welcome. So if you are just hopping on, you have not missed much. We are going to take your thicker cord, one of your thicker bundles, and one of your rings, and we are gonna we're doing 6 lark's head knots. So what does that look like? I have 3 more to go, so you can watch mine. You want to take your cord 1 piece at a time, fold it in half, exactly in half. Then you want to put the loop in, the doubled over end through your ring, and then you want to put the 2 tails through that loop and pull it, and you should end up with something that looks like this. I consider this the front where I have that little bump here. But either way, you just want it to be consistent. So you either want all of those bumps on the front or you want them all to be smooth on the back, or if you want to call that the front, it's up to you. So.
And sorry, is this, which length is this?
So this is the thicker cord.
The thicker cord. The 2, like these are the same, right?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, they should. Yeah, we shouldn't have. They might vary a little in length, but they're all the same. Yeah, the thicker of the 2.
And then how many are we doing on here?
We're doing 1 ring and we're doing 6 pieces of cord. So if you just untie 1 bundle, should have 6.
Okay.
There we go. And once you get 5, it may look, you're like, I think I'm done, it's full. There's room for a 6th one. We have to just move things over just a little. And when you pull, you can pull these tails if you need to get it tighter. This is the most like strenuous part of this macrame. If you do a lot of macrame, you probably have really, really strong forearms and like thumbs. It can be a workout, but this is the toughest part that we have to pull. So that once you get to this last one, you know, you might have to kind of force that loop through, but it will fit. So then it's nice and full. We really don't see much of that gold ring. And we've got 6 even pieces. If you have any that don't sit quite flat, you can again pull those tail ends and adjust there. So we have 6. So again, the reason that we need 6 is that really fun math of multiples of 4 when our cord is folded over. So if we started out with 8 pieces, that actually doesn't get us a multiple of 4 I don't believe it does. I don't know. We have 6. It's early, still early for me and a lot of math. So we have 6 here. Then our next step is going to be to divide it into 3 groups of 4, just like I have here. So you can again adjust these and make sure they're even. We need 3 groups of 4. I'll give it just a second, make sure everybody's at that point before we move on. And if you have a larger set and you're working on some later, if you finish early, you can always grab another ring and put, jump ahead and put your cord on another ring if you end up with some extra time while we're waiting. It's a little tricky sometimes virtually for me to see exactly where everyone is. So if at any point you need slow down, speed up, let me know. but it looks like people are starting to look up from their cord as if you're ready to go. Okay. Okay, good deal. Let's move on to our next step. So really the basis of everything else that we're doing is a square knot. So a square knot is made up of 2 half square knots. Again, it's like a macrame. Strangely, like a lot of math. But what we're gonna do first is just practice a couple square knots, and we're gonna start to make our snowflake as we practice. So the first thing you wanna do is take this bundle of 4. We're gonna work only on these 4 right now. And we're really only gonna use these outside 2. So from there, we're gonna take our outside left piece, we're gonna fold it over as if it makes a 4, like that. And then we're gonna take our right piece, right outside, and that's gonna sit over that 4. You do wanna make sure that you always put that right one, or we're gonna alternate. So right now we're doing left first, then right. We will alternate and do right, then left. That's kind of the 2 halves of that square knot. So you just wanna make sure this one is going over the horizontal piece here. Okay, so we've done that. Then we're gonna take this right piece again. It's sitting on top of this, and then it's gonna go under the 2 in the center, and it's gonna pop up through the loop of that 4 here. And then when you do that, it starts to look kind of like a pretzel, and you should have 2 coming down in the center, and then kind of 2 loops on each side. And you can take those 2 outside ones and pull them tight and push that square knot up to the top where your ring is. And as you're doing that, if it starts to kind of curl on you, pull those 2 center cords down, and that should help it lay flat. So we're gonna do that pretty close to our ring here to get our snowflake shape and to keep our snowflake from being too wobbly. I have a couple here I can show you just as you're tying your knots to think about. This one has a lot more space between the knots, and when I hold it up, it's pretty good, but I can actually like push it and it kind of makes like a little bowl. So if you want that, that's totally fine. You could set your coffee or candle or something in there, but just to be mindful that if you want to hang it and you want it to be a flat snowflake, we want our knots to be pretty close together. So lots of little nuances in these. So we've done that first half of our square knot, which we did left first. So now we're going to do the second half of our square knot, and it's going to be the right side first, and it's mirror of what we just did. So we're going to make a backwards 4 now, with the right cord is going to sit horizontal, perpendicular to these 2 long ones. Our left one's going to go on top of that horizontal cord, and then it's going to go behind the 2 center ones and through that loop. So again, we kind of get that pretzel shape. If you aren't getting that pretzel shape when you pull, it might be that you're not going over and under, and then you're not catching those 2 in the center.
Sorry, I missed that. I have a little toddler meltdown, so I couldn't hear what you were saying.
No problem.
Sorry,
Okay.
the last, can you just repeat that for
The
me? I'm
last one?
sorry.
Yeah.
What goes where?
So I'm going to undo mine and I'll show you this exact
Thank
one.
you.
No problem. So we did our left half. So now we're working on our right side. So we're going to do right side makes essentially a backwards 4, or I guess a P. I don't know. So that one's going to sit horizontal to our center 2. Our left one's going to go on top of the horizontal one. And then our left cord is going to go under the 2 center ones and up through this right loop. So it's the reverse. The more you start to do it, it will become hopefully will become more natural on both sides. But we'd have to alternate it to get that full square knot. So then when we pull, we should get something that looks like this. Kind of has a little bump on the left side because that's where we started. So for now, I'm gonna leave that this arm, and I'm gonna go over to this other bundle of 4. So the way that we work on our snowflakes, we don't want to work too far on this arm because we're kind of creating a circular shape. So we're going to do something, we're going to do what we did here and replicate that on this bundle of 4 and this bundle of 4. And we're kind of working in a spiral shape. So we're going to do that same thing with the next group of 4. So we're going to take our 2 in the center, are just going to rest where they are. Our left one is going to go over and make that 4. So it's going over the 2 center ones. And then the right one's going over the horizontal one. And then this right one is going under the center and up through that left loop. And then we're going to pull that up towards the top again. Okay. And again, you can pull those center 2. Keep an eye on that original lark side knot. Make sure nothing's funky up at the top as you're doing your first knot. This kind of sets, make sure that you're good and flat before you get started. So we just did the left half of our square knot. We're going to go back and we're going to do that right side. So we're going to take our right cord and make that P shape here on top of the center ones. And then we're going to take our left cord and that's going to go on top of the horizontal and then under the center cord and up through that loop. So that is the trick. It sounds like everybody's has got that. If you aren't going under these 2 center ones, that can be where you can you're like, I pull and I don't get anything. So you do want to make sure you go under the center and up through the loop. There. And I'm going left then right every time just to keep myself on track. And that way I don't have to think about it. I just do left and then right. So now we have our second square knot and we're going to rotate our snowflake again. And we're going to repeat that process once more and do our left side over and then back through here. Again, we're just going to make sure this one sits nice and flat. This cord is good and thick and pretty rigid, but so sometimes you have to do a little extra pulling, but it's nice because it will keep its shape for our snowflakes. So now we're going to do our right side of that square knot again. Hold this good and tight here. So we're going to do our right side over, left on top for that P, and then through our loop. And pull. So now we've done 3 square knots and we're in a great spot because really everything else that we're going to do is going to be a square knot, but all we're going to do is alternate what cord we're working with to get our snowflakes. So instead of, if we were to just keep going, we would end up with something that looks kind of like a fidget spinner or something. It would just have these 3 arms. But to make our snowflake, what we want to do is now adjust our groups. So we're still going to work in groups of 4, but we're going to split these in half. So we're going to take 2 from this arm and 2 from this arm, and that now becomes our group of 4. And the same thing all the way around. We're going to take 2 from each original, and that becomes our next layer. So if it helps to redistribute those right now so you know where you're headed. That's a good thing to do. And you want to make sure those center cords are sitting flat. You don't want to twist them too much. You want to make sure whichever one you're grabbing to go to that next layer is on that side.